This is one that hits close to home that I'm excited to share. I spoke to a family friend who has just graduated with her master's degree from Cornell, of all places. Very impressive. And her grandfather was pals with my dad. He reached out to me and asked me if I would speak with her. And I said, of course, try to help. We spent the first 5 to 10 minutes talking about her resume, which she had studied. And I was like, hey, look at my network, see if there's anybody in my network that aligns with the jobs that you're looking for. She shared the types of businesses that she was interested in and the type of work that she wants to do with her master's degree. And I did have some people in my network, to be clear, that I wanted to refer her to. And I could see the disappointment in her face. I was giving her the same exact advice that everybody had been giving her, guidance counselors and resume rewrites and all sorts of jazz like that. And I stopped the meeting and I said, look, you want my real advice? And I gave her the real skinny, and I'm going to give you guys the real skinny, because sometimes I take for granted the fact that because I lived through it, that not everybody approaches things in the manner that I do, and me can help you because it keeps coming up. Here it goes. My real advice was as follows. Back in, let's see, we were married in 2006. We were pregnant. Laura was pregnant with Talia in 2007. 2007, I was a director of sales. I wanted to become a vice president of sales because my wife was pregnant with our first child, Talia, who's now 17. And I kept getting sent on interviews to be a director of sales by headhunters, great headhunters. But the headhunters were incented in the wrong way. It didn't align with what I wanted to accomplish. What I mean by that is they would send me on interviews to be a director of sales at different companies because I fit that mold, and they knew that could be a quick conversion. Their client needed a director of sales. I was a director of sales. Make it matchy, perfect. Wrong. I'd been a director of sales for a bunch of years, and I felt like I was ready for the next level to become a vice president of sales. And the reality was, we lived in a studio apartment in the city, and I wanted to get a place in Westchester so that I could raise my children. And I needed a big bump. I needed more than, ooh, look, it's $5,000 more a year in your salary. I needed to get to the point where I could put a down payment for a mortgage and a house in the suburbs. So I was very determined. Any parent out there knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you get like a sonogram, you're like, oh my gosh, this is bigger than just me. It's not just me that's going to be responsible for this human being. And you go about the task of trying to make sure that that child's life is great as you can possibly make it. So I started pushing, and I was like, look, I need to be going on vice president of sales job interviews, and the headhunters just weren't delivering. So I was working at a pay for performance ed network at the time, and I realized that all of the trades that I was reading, I was like, I know about this. I can figure this stuff out. So I decided to start a blog, creatively named ChristopherDessy.com, still exists today. And I wrote my first blog post about the fatal flaw of pay for performance. And what I mean by that is I read a Harvard Business Review article about pay for performance and how CEOs were going to jail because they were cooking the books. And I mapped that to my industry. I said, hey, this is the same thing that we deal with at performance ad networks because it opens itself up to potential fraudulent activity by the publishers because they're being paid for a conversion. That's an issue. Here's how we handle that issue. Isn't that interesting? I send that to the headhunter and said, send my blog post to the hiring manager at this gig and let's see what happens. I got the job as a vice president of sales, and it's in the opening prologue of my book, Remarkable You, about how to build a personal brand, because the title of that is my $260,000 blog post. And it's because I got a base salary and a signing bonus and all that jazz by one blog post. That changed the trajectory of everything that I dealt with in my career. And I really mean that, because it completely changed my mindset, my view of what you might be dealing with if you're looking for a job. The lesson is, don't play their game. This is your game. You're in control. They would be lucky to have you. And once you figure that out and you realize that they might be inundated by paperwork, inundated by easy applies on LinkedIn, you will be able to take a step back, breathe, and figure out how you can add value to that business, because there's a human being on the other end of that. So you need to figure out where you fit into that equation and how you can help them. And that's literally what I did in the blog post. Like, look, I knew that I was interviewing at Xanox, and Xanox was another pay for performance network. It was more global than the one that I was working at, but I knew that I could solve their problems. And I knew that if they saw how I thought about the industry and how I approached things, that I would be a shoo-in for the job. And that's exactly what happened. As I continued throughout my career, I continued to do that, where I wanted to get into social media. I've told the story a lot, but not this way, where I saw Gary Vaynerchuk speak at the iMedia Council. It was an iMedia event at the Javits Center. And Gary kind of lists that as like his breakout session, and I was in the audience. And he blew my mind. And he said on stage that he was going to start VaynerMedia. So I went home, I wrote him this impassioned email, and I was like, look, dude, I'm going to work for you. You're incredible. I want to be in social media. I've been selling software for a bunch of years. I understand that. I have a master's degree in direct marketing. So he takes a meeting. I go out to Wine Library. This is now, was Talia born? Yeah, Talia was born. So this is probably 2008. So go out, I meet with him, and he's like, you got a mortgage and a baby. You live in Chappaqua. I can't afford to pay you right now. I'm hiring my brother AJ and his buddies from BU. Great guys, great group of guys. And he's like, barely paying them. So do social media and then come back. So I went out, I launched Dadzilla TV. Don't look for it. I've erased it from the face of the internet. But I got comfortable learning that technology because I wanted to make a leap into that industry. And that's key as well. If you're looking for a job and you're trying to figure out where you fit within your ecosystem, but you want to make a leap, this is how I went about making that leap. I immersed myself in everything in that technology, and I figured it out on my own. I made a lot of mistakes. I built a WordPress blog. I used a flip camera to review products. I figured out affiliate marketing on the publishing side so that I could make some money when there were conversions on my website. I figured out how to gain attention. I figured out who my audience was and tried to get in their head as other fathers. And I went about learning how to do social media. And then that's when I stumbled upon, there was a young woman, Jamie Varon, who had launched a website called twittershouldhireme.com, and she was getting lots of media attention. And so I wanted to get into social media. So what better way to do that than buying the URL facebookshouldhireme.com. I do still own the URL. If you go there, I think it redirects to my LinkedIn profile. But I bought facebookshouldhireme.com and I started blogging from facebookshouldhireme.com. And that's a critical piece of the puzzle as well. I wanted to get into social media. I identified the biggest player in social media in my mind at the time. And that's where I positioned myself. And we're going to get to, so that got covered by Fortune magazine as creative ways to gain employment. I took that into a company called Buddy Media, but I directed the headhunter to help me get into Buddy Media because I researched venture capital firms that were investing in social media companies. And I noticed, I think it was Union Square Ventures. Was it Union Square Ventures? I think it was was it Fred Wilson? I'm not certain exactly who invested. I know that I commented on Fred Wilson's blog and Mike Lazarow mentioned that in the interview, but that's part of the puzzle as well, is that I immersed myself in it. So reading all the blog content, commenting on blog content, learning as much as I could. That struck Mike. He was like, commented on Fred's blog. Nobody comments on his blog, because I was so excited about what I wanted to do in this new envisioned career that I had, that I did everything in my power in order to get in front of the people that were powerful within that ecosystem. Took the blogging from facebookshouldhireme.com, get the job offer from Mike Lazarow at Buddy Media. My first week, I introduced Gary to Mike Lazarow. Gary incubates VaynerMedia at the Buddy Media offices. And, well, a couple bumps in the road after that. But we won't touch on that. Point being, everything that I did in order to adjust myself and my career and search for a job started with me. And that's what I encourage you to do, especially with AI. Stop going through the normal route of, oh, I need to improve my resume. Because now, more than ever, everybody has access to the same tools. Everybody can create a prompt and be better at prompt engineering and say, act like a copy editor and review my resume, or take the job description, put that into ChatGPT and say, update my resume in order to map to this job description. In fact, I think it's unique that LinkedIn actually does that for you now, where you don't have to worry about putting it into ChatGPT on your own, that you could just allow LinkedIn to create a custom resume. Everybody now has access to AI. Everybody has the ability to customize their resume so that it maps to that job description. And the hiring managers are being inundated by this stuff and they're confused by it. Why? Because it's good. Because AI can create a custom cover letter. AI can create a custom resume. AI can make everybody look a million times better than you in an instant. So how do you differentiate yourself? As follows. What I started to do, and the only way that it's going to resonate for somebody, and my recommendation to this family friend, was identify the top organizations that you work in. Really drill down, figure out where do you work. Think about location, think about commute, think about career trajectory, think about the value that you bring to that organization potentially. And when you start there, then you could begin researching. I always say this when I'm talking about marketing, AI marketing, or otherwise. You need to start with research. My father taught me this, Direct Marketing 101. You can't do anything unless you know who you're talking to. And if you're searching for a job, you're marketing yourself. So marketing yourself, what do you have to do? You have to understand the human being on the other end of that. The human being that's receiving your resume is stressed. The human being that has posted that job is stressed. Whether that be an HR person or the individual themselves because they're running their own business and they want to hire somebody, it doesn't matter. They are trying to fill a position. They need help. It's up to you to figure out how you can help them and bring your skill set to the table. And you can't just do that by flipping a resume over the fence, because everybody's flipping a resume over the fence. So you need to conduct your research. You identify the top 5 organizations. You identify the department that you're interested in. You then identify the individuals that are in that department, and then you go about stalking them. You hone your stalker tendencies, and you get really good at those stalker tendencies. You see what type of content that they're publishing on LinkedIn, see the type of content that they're ingesting on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on their website. Are they doing webinars? Are you signed up for those webinars? Are they conducting newsletter blasts? Are you signed up for those newsletters? Are you really reading the content that they're putting out? Maybe take all those newsletters, you throw that into ChatGPT, and you say, identify 5 themes that this company is continuously talking about, or 5 projects that they're looking forward to in 2026. Identify some issues that you think that they might be having. Analyze their stock, looking at the stock and the trajectory of the stock. What are some bumps in the roads? What are some issues that they're having? That's how a real pro, excuse me, leverages AI other than just improving their resume. A real pro takes data and inputs that into AI and allows the AI to extract learnings that can only be used by you. And it's up to you to figure out what those things are that you're good at, that you can bring to the table. But you need to conduct this due diligence, and you need to have that grit and that hustle to go about and aggregate that information. And once you do that, then and only then can you approach these businesses and say, I want to work with you. When I mentioned that I walked into that office with Buddy Media, I didn't just walk into the office with the Fortune magazine under my arm. I walked into Mike Lazaro's office with, I think, a 20-slide deck explaining to him how I was going to sell for him over the course of the next year, because I was so excited to be a part of social media. Gary lit that fire under my ass, and I was like, man on fire. So I decided that I wanted to make the decision so clear for them that there was no other candidate available, that I walked in, I said, this is what I'm going to do. If you want me to do this, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll show up tomorrow morning. I'll be the first one in the office and I'll be the last one to leave, but this is what I'm going to do. And I've done that throughout the course of my career. My last gig as a chief revenue officer at a fintech, I did the same exact thing. I was in my late 40s. I'm 50 now. You have no excuse. I'm too young for that. I'm too old for that. Whatever. BS. Figure out the value that you can bring by stalking those executives on those top 5 businesses. Once you figure out the value, I would create a deck. If you do get the opportunity to present to them, print it out, as well as be ready to present it. If you're going to do sales, marketing, communications, anything along those lines, you're going to have to be a good communicator, and then come there prepared. These are the things that I've been thinking about, obsessing about your business. This is the value that I could bring to your business. And if you don't get the meeting, start blogging about that. I dare you to tag those businesses when you start generating a newsletter on LinkedIn. Think about how powerful that would be for a minute. You identify the top 5 organizations that you want to work for. You research and you stalk. You look at all the C-suite. You see whether they're doing webinars, whether they're publishing newsletters. Take all that information, throw that into ChatGPT, say, what are their top 5 problems? What are the top 5 things that they're excelling at? Then you start to generate blog content from your own personal brand. And you start mentioning those executives. And then you add, here's how I would do this and the value that I can bring. If you do all of that legwork, and then you reach out to a hiring manager, come on, man. Come on, man. Then this stuff becomes fun. Then you're in control. And maybe that's the biggest lesson. It's just for you to understand that you are in control. This is your life. This is your career. It is up to you. So nobody's going to come and hand it to you. And now more than ever, AI is screwing that up for you. You can't flip it over the fence. Everybody's flipping it over the fence. You can't improve your resume. Everybody's improved their resume. Everybody's got a perfect resume. Everybody's got a perfect cover letter. So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you raise awareness? How do you get into the mind of who you're marketing to and understanding? Research. And the way you research is using AI. And then once you research and you extract value, and then you use your own skill set combined with that and put that out into the world, boom. That's where it becomes something very different. So if you're looking for a gig, and you're terrified, and you say the market is terrible and AI is taking all the jobs, I call bullshit on that. I'm calling bullshit on you. Figure it out. Identify those top 5 companies. Look at the executives. Look at the content that they're posting. Look at the content they're ingesting. Understand the trajectory of their company. Think about the value that you can bring to that company. Figure out where you fit. Don't look at it and say, oh, they already have a whole team. I guarantee you, if there is a job listing, that the person that wants that job posted is considering potentially firing at least 2 executives on that team. I dare you to give them a reason to fire those team members and hire you. That's all I got. Keep up the good work, gang. See ya.